On this episode, we will explain the dimensions. First, we will briefly go over the dimensions as per science. Then, we will explain how they look like in space, where the fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on dimensions are, what pattern they follow in space, and how we are multidimensional beings, and what's keeping us from seeing or crossing into higher dimensions. Before we start, please use discernment when listening to our videos. Alright, first, what are dimensions? For those of us that are not familiar. A dimension is somewhere or something that can be measured from, let's say, a point A to a point B. For example, this line here is one-dimensional because we only have one measurement, say lengthwise. And this here square, on the other hand, is two-dimensional because now we have length and width, so two measurements. And now this box is three-dimensional because we added height to the equation. So now we have length, width, and height. Alright, so now what would these dimensions look like in space? For the answer, let's first take a look back at the Nikola Tesla music chart from last episode, Proof of a Creator. If you haven't watched the last episode, I recommend you pause here, watch that, then come back, because then this would make a lot more sense. Anyways, let's take a look at the fa sharp, the geometry. You see, it's not a coincidence that our music chart starts at the 180 degrees, let's call it in this case, because we are talking geometry. You see, the 180 degrees is the triangle, which has three sides, and we are here in the third dimension. And now, if we were to go back one octave, we see the 90-degree angle, which would be the second dimension, hence the two sides. And if we were to go back one more octave, we see the 45-degree angle. Now notice how the 45 angle is within the 90. They're like two sides of the same coin. So what does that mean? And what would these dimensions look like in space? Of course, in space, there are no straight lines or boxes. So they would look like this. Our beautiful blue planet, Gaia. See, imagine there is a dot in the center of this Earth. Now the first measurement or movement is a circle inside of Earth. So inner Earth is the first dimension. And the surface of the planet can be measured in longitude and latitude. Therefore, the surface of the planet is the second dimension. And now here we are, free to move around on the surface, detached from it. So now we are in the third dimension. So where would the fourth, fifth, and so on dimensions be? The funny thing is that the majority of humans already indirectly know the answer to this. And if you guessed up, then you are correct. You see, the next measurement or movement is up, and then up again, and up again, and you get the point. So the fourth dimension starts at the surface and then goes up from here. This is how it's all happening in the same place at the same time. The space around us is actually full of life, but the majority of humans cannot see it. And what pattern do these dimensions follow in space? They would follow this pattern, the golden ratio. And so does me and you, the Milky Way, continents, many of flora and fauna. There are literally examples of this everywhere, both on land and in the ocean, hidden in plain sight, just like the universe likes it. But we will talk about the golden ratio and why it was introduced on an upcoming episode. On a side note, many people ask how come the fourth dimension is not talked about like the third or the fifth, for example. And that's a fair question. For the answer, let's take another look at the music chart. You see, just like the 45 is inside the 90, it's the base for it, that pattern repeats again with the 360 degrees, the square and the circle. You see, the square is the fourth dimension, hence the four sides, and the circle is the fifth dimension. So the square is the base for the fifth, the astral realm. It's like what inner Earth is to outer Earth. And this pattern repeats again with the octadecagon, the eighth and the ninth dimensions, which my guess is the base for the angelic realms, and our geometry turns into mandalas, ending with the circle of life. Now, with that being said, what would we see if we were looking at somebody in the fourth dimension? we would see a ghost, a being without the body. And if somebody from the fifth dimension was to enter our space, to say hi, for example, we would see a sphere, a ball of light, hence the circle. You ever seen a ghost or a ball of light moving around? If you have, you're not alone, and you're definitely not crazy. Which leaves us with two more questions. How are we multidimensional, and what's keeping us from seeing or crossing into higher dimensions? For the answers, let's take a look at, you guessed it, the music chart. In this case, the zeros don't count, so we removed them, and now we are talking hertz. You see, as a consciousness, we started at, let's say, 0 hertz. And as we learn, and our consciousness grows, and your energy field expands, therefore you can vibrate higher. So we vibrated higher than 4.5 hertz and graduated the first dimension. Then we vibrated higher than 9 hertz and graduated the second dimension. And now here we are in the human form, vibrating anywhere from, let's say, 6 to 12 hertz on average, give or take. So we would have to raise our vibration in order to start seeing, then crossing into higher dimensions. And we would have to go higher than 18 hertz to graduate into the fifth dimension. However, we cross into higher dimensions all the time in our dream state because now the body is shut down and our consciousness can move around freely. It's the universe's way of teaching us even while we sleep, because whatever enters our consciousness or brain stays there, whether we're awake or asleep. And we can go to lower dimensions in the physical because we vibrate higher. For example, if you bury yourself in the sand, you are now in the first dimension. And if you jump into a body of water, then you have entered another dimension. Water also shows us that one jump and we can enter a whole new world altogether, existing in the same place at the same time as us. That's how the universe prepares us for what's to come by hiding it in plain sight. On one more side note, I've heard before that imagination is what separates the second dimension from the third dimension, and I respect their opinion. However, I do not agree with that. You see, according to the music chart, it is vibration that separates the dimensions. If you can move around on the surface, detached from it, then you are no longer in 2D. Just like when you lose the body, you detach from gravity, and you're no longer in 3D. See, imagination you get near the end of your 3D journey in the human form, where you will need to use it to learn how to create consciously. Because in the fifth dimension, everything manifests pretty much instantly. So you don't have the wait time like you do here in the third in order to protect you. So you would have to master creating consciously before you can graduate into the fifth dimension. Now we will explain many things as we go that will help you on your spiritual journey. But if you need one-on-one guidance ASAP with, for example, protecting your energy, if you're feeling drained all the time, with raising your vibration, turning on your chakras, clearing your mind, manifestation, like you're trying to manifest and it's still not working for you, then leave a brief email with what you need help with to the email address on your screen and we can take it from there. Thank you for watching. Next video, the definition of the Tesla 369 code.